In a small town nestled in the heart of America, where the sun rose over cornfields and set behind the local diner, lived a woman named Sarah. Sarah was like many others. She had dreams, aspirations, and a seemingly endless list of things to do. She wanted to write a novel, start a podcast, and finally get around to that yoga class she had been eyeing for months. Yet every day, she found herself caught in a web of procrastination. The hours slipped by as she scrolled through social media, binge-watched shows, and made excuses. One particularly dreary afternoon, Sarah sat on her couch, staring at the blank page of her laptop. The cursor blinked at her, tauntingly, as if to say, "What are you waiting for?" She sighed, feeling the weight of her dreams pressing down on her. It wasn't that she lacked the talent or the ideas, it was the overwhelming fear of failure that paralyzed her. She thought about how many times she had promised herself that today would be the day she'd start. Yet here she was again, stuck in a cycle of inaction. That evening, Sarah decided to take a walk to clear her mind. As she strolled through the quiet streets, she noticed an elderly man sitting on a bench, feeding the birds. He seemed content, a smile plastered across his weathered face as the birds fluttered around him. Intrigued, she approached him. "What's your secret?" she asked, genuinely curious. The man chuckled softly. "Ah, my dear, it's simple. I just take action. You see, life is too short to wait for the perfect moment. You have to create it." Intrigued by his words, Sarah sat beside him, and they engaged in a deep conversation. He shared stories of his youth, filled with adventures and risks he had taken, and how each small action had led to a lifetime of memories. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the town, the man leaned closer and said, "There's a little trick I learned along the way, something I call the 5-second rule. It's a technique that can help you overcome procrastination." 5 seconds? Sarah raised an eyebrow, skeptical but intrigued. "Exactly," he replied. "Whenever you feel the urge to procrastinate, count down from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then you just go. You have to act before your brain has a chance to talk you out of it." That night, Sarah lay in bed, the man's words echoing in her mind. She felt a flicker of hope, a spark of motivation she hadn't felt in a long time. The next morning, she decided to put the 5-second rule to the test. As she sipped her coffee, she felt the familiar urge to scroll through her phone instead of writing. She took a deep breath, counted down, and before she could second-guess herself, she opened her laptop and began typing. The words flowed like a river, and for the first time in months, she felt alive. The 5-second rule had broken her cycle of procrastination. Each time she felt the urge to avoid her tasks, she counted down and took action. Whether it was writing, attending that yoga class, or even calling an old friend, she embraced the technique wholeheartedly. Weeks passed, and Sarah found herself making significant progress. Her novel, once a distant dream, transformed into a tangible project. She started recording episodes for her podcast, sharing stories of her journey and the lessons she learned along the way. The more she acted, the more confident she became. The 5-second rule became her mantra, a guiding principle that helped her seize the day instead of letting it slip away. One day, while preparing for a podcast episode, Sarah received a message from a listener. It was a young woman named Emily who had been struggling with her own battles against procrastination. Emily shared how Sarah's podcast had inspired her to take action in her life. She had started a small business, something she had dreamed of for years but never had the courage to pursue. Reading Emily's message filled Sarah with a sense of purpose. She realized that her actions, however small, had the power to inspire others. The ripple effect of embracing the 5-second rule had not only transformed her life, but also touched the lives of those around her. As Sarah continued her journey, she faced challenges, of course. There were days when the weight of self-doubt threatened to pull her back into the shadows of procrastination. But she had learned to recognize those moments, to count down from 5 and push through. Each time she did, she emerged stronger, more resilient. One sunny afternoon, while sitting at her favorite cafe, Sarah reflected on how far she had come. She had completed her novel, launched her podcast, and even started teaching yoga classes. The small town that had once felt confining now brimmed with possibilities. She had transformed not just her life but also her mindset. The 5-second rule had become more than just a technique. It was a lifestyle. Sarah learned that taking action didn't always mean grand gestures. Sometimes it was about those small, consistent steps that accumulated over time. The simple act of counting down had empowered her to embrace the unknown, to face her fears head-on. As she sipped her coffee, watching the world go by, Sarah felt a profound sense of gratitude. She had learned that life was about seizing opportunities, no matter how small. The 5-second rule had unlocked her potential, and now she was living a life full of purpose and passion. And so, in that small town, where dreams blossomed amidst the cornfields, Sarah became a beacon of motivation for others. She shared her story, encouraging everyone to embrace the 5-second rule and take action. Because in the end, it wasn't just about overcoming procrastination. It was about rising to the challenge, thriving, and living life to the fullest.